What if a simple lemonade stand on a quiet Los Angeles street was more than just a child's summer project? What if, behind the bright sign and the sweet smiles, there was a story of resilience, sacrifice, and an unspoken struggle? When Keanu Reeves stopped by for a refreshing drink, he expected nothing more than a nostalgic taste of childhood, but instead, he met Sophie, a 12-year-old girl with a quiet determination in her eyes and a reason for standing there far beyond pocket money. Why was she selling lemonade every day? Her apron neatly embroidered with her name by a mother who was barely around? Why did she glance down the street with a mixture of hope and apprehension, as if waiting for something or someone who might never come? And what would happen when a simple act of kindness set off a chain of events that neither Keanu nor Sophie could have predicted? Join us in reflecting on this true story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more daily stories like this. Share your thoughts in the comments section and let us know where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. Before we continue this story, tell us where you are watching from. If you like stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another special story for you. The morning sun hung soft, tly above a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, the rays filtering through leafy trees that lined the street. Keanu Reeves, dressed simply in jeans and a comfortable t-shirt, strolled at a leisurely pace. He had been looking for a moment of calm amid his busy schedule, relishing the peace of a residential area where life seemed to move more slowly. As he rounded a corner, Keanu noticed something that brought a smile to his face. A small lemonade stand, adorned with a handwritten sign that read, "Lemonade, a cup of happiness for $1." The stand was little more than a folding table draped in a bright cloth, with a big glass pitcher balanced atop it. But it was the young girl behind it who really caught his attention. Her name, embroidered on a pink apron, was Sophie, and she couldn't have been more than 12 years old. Dark, bouncy curls framed her face, and though she smiled shyly at each passerby, Keanu sensed a certain heaviness in her eyes, an unspoken weight that felt beyond her years. As he approached, Sophie beamed, offering him a polite wave. "Hi," he greeted, returning her smile warmly. "I haven't seen a lemonade stand like this in ages. I'd love a cup." Sophie handed him a clear plastic cup and, with practiced care, poured a pale yellow liquid from the glass pitcher. "That'll be $1, sir," she said, a hint of excitement in her voice. Keanu handed her a $5 bill and gently waved off the change. He took a sip and let the sweet yet tart taste wash over his tongue. "This is wonderful," he said genuinely. "Must be the best lemonade in Los Angeles." Sophie's cheeks dimpled in delight. They chatted for a moment about the sunny weather and the calm neighborhood. Although Sophie remained polite, Keanu could tell she was holding back, as if uncertain whether it was okay to talk about herself. Her posture, both eager and guarded, suggested there was more to her story than a simple summer business. Keanu, wanting to put her at ease, pointed to her apron. "I like your name stitched there, Sophie. Did you do that yourself?" She shook her head, giving a wistful smile. "My mom, Monica, did it. She said if I was going to sell lemonade, I might as well look professional." "That's pretty smart of her," Keanu remarked, his curiosity growing. "Have you been at this for a while?" "Just a few weeks," Sophie replied. "I thought it would be, a good way to spend the summer." The words came out carefully, as though rehearsed. Keanu sensed a subtle tremor in her voice that didn't quite match her upbeat expression. A car passed slowly by, the driver glancing over with curiosity. Sophie offered a friendly wave, but the car moved on without stopping. Keanu noticed the fleeting disappointment on her face. It dawned on him that her stand might not be pulling in as many customers as she'd hoped, yet she remained steadfast in her efforts. His gaze flickered to a small tip jar on the table, containing a handful of coins and a few wrinkled dollar bills. "So, how's business?" he asked gently. Sophie shrugged. "It's okay. Some days are better than others, but I just keep going." Keanu could almost hear the subtext behind that statement. She spoke like someone who had learned life's challenges a bit too soon. He wanted to ask why a bright 12-year-old would spend her free time manning a lemonade stand on a quiet street, but he refrained from pressing. Perhaps, he thought, the story would reveal itself in time. Before leaving, he took another sip of lemonade, then looked Sophie in the eye. "I'll be back," he told her, voice friendly yet resolute. "This is too good not to try again." Sophie's eyes flickered with hope. "I'll be here," she replied, and he believed she really would. As he walked away, Keanu Reeves couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more behind Sophie's stand than met the eye. Something about her quiet determination touched him deeply. He made a mental note to return soon, not just to taste that delicious lemonade again, but also to learn more about the girl whose smile was tinged with unspoken sorrow. That night, as he drifted off to sleep, images of Sophie's curly hair and bright yet guarded expression lingered in his thoughts. Little did he know that his decision to visit her again would set into motion a chain of events that would alter both their lives in ways neither could have predicted. True to his word, Keanu Reeves returned to Sophie's lemonade stand the following morning. This time, he carried a small grocery bag filled with fresh strawberries, a couple of lemons, and some sprigs of mint he'd picked up from a local farmer's market. He had spent the night thinking of ways to help Sophie, and decided that something as simple as a few fresh ingredients might brighten her day and spark new ideas for her small business. As he approached, he noticed Sophie adjusting the sign, making sure it was clearly visible to the trickle of pedestrians passing by. She wore the same pink apron, her curly hair bouncing as she reached up to straighten the cup of happiness for $1 lettering. Her eyes lit up when she saw Keanu approaching. "Good morning, Sophie," he said, setting the bag on the table. "I thought maybe you could use these to make some fun lemonade flavors." Her face broke into a radiant smile. "Wow, thank you so much. I was thinking about experimenting, but I wasn't sure how to start." Keanu leaned against a nearby pole, casually surveying the quiet street. "Might be nice to attract more customers," he suggested. "Strawberry lemonade, or maybe mint lemonade, can grab people's attention." Sophie nodded eagerly as she carefully washed the strawberries in a small plastic tub of water she'd brought from home. Keanu noticed how skilled she was at handling each task. She worked with methodical precision, almost like someone who'd been doing chores far beyond her age. Once everything was set, she blended a small batch of strawberry lemonade, tasting it with the tip of a spoon. "Try it," she offered Keanu, handing him a paper cup. He took a sip and let out a delighted chuckle. "That's incredible. You just might be the best lemonade mixologist in LA. Sophie laughed, the sound warm and genuine. For a moment, he saw only a happy 12-year-old, free from worry. But as a short lull set in and she stood quietly by the stand, Keanu sensed her mind drifting to something heavier, like a dark cloud passing behind her bright eyes. He decided to probe gently. "So, what else do you like to do besides making world-class lemonade? Any hobbies? Friends you hang out with?" Sophie shrugged, taking time to straighten some cups on the table. "I used to do theater at school. It was my favorite thing in the world. I loved how I could forget everything else when I was on stage. But I had to drop it this year." "Really?" Keanu asked softly, trying to keep his tone light. "Why'd you drop something you love?" She hesitated, looking down at the table. "Things got complicated at home," she said, as if that explained everything. "So I needed to spend more time helping out." A car pulled up beside them just then, and a middle-aged woman hopped out. She purchased 2 cups of strawberry lemonade, complimenting Sophie's entrepreneurial spirit. Sophie offered her thanks, her smile back again. But Keanu could still sense the lingering sadness. When the customer drove away, he ventured another question, mindful not to push too hard. "Do you have family around here? Any siblings?" Sophie's face flickered with an unreadable emotion. "I do. My mom, her name is Monica, works a lot. And I have a younger brother, Ethan." She paused, her voice trailing off. Keanu noticed the way Sophie spoke her brother's name, as though it was wrapped in worry, but he let it go, trusting that if she wanted to share more, she would in her own time. Changing the subject, he reached for another cup of lemonade. "I gotta say, you're really talented. Have you considered any fancy signage? Or maybe letting the neighborhood know how great your lemonade is?" Sophie let out a small sigh. "I wish I could, but I don't have time to do much. I'm here every day after school and on weekends." Keanu nodded, a plan forming in the back of his mind. Well, I have some free time this week. What if we jazz up the stand a little? A nice sign, maybe some decorations. I bet we can draw a bigger crowd. Her eyes sparkled. That would be amazing. But, she hesitated, I don't want to impose on you. Hey, he said gently, it's no imposition. I love your lemonade and I love what you're doing. Consider me a loyal customer with a knack for a bit of design. She smiled gratefully. Thank you. That means a lot. They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas, from making a hand-painted sign to possibly setting up a small canopy for shade. With each new suggestion, Sophie's excitement grew. Still, Keanu couldn't ignore the sense that beneath her enthusiasm lay a quiet desperation. There was more driving her to stand on this corner day after day than just a whimsical summer project. Finally, he stood up, brushing stray drops of lemonade from his sleeve. I'll bring some supplies tomorrow. Deal? Deal, Sophie answered, gripping his hand in a firm shake that belied her small stature. Before walking away, Keanu Reeves flashed her one last smile, the kind that said, I believe in you. And Sophie, for the first time, felt the stirring of hope that perhaps life could get a little brighter. Yet, as she watched him disappear around the corner, her thoughts inevitably drifted to the reason she was there in the first place. Her brother, Ethan, and the financial strain her mother silently carried on her shoulders. Sophie took a shaky breath, silently promising him that she wouldn't give up. The following day, Keanu arrived earlier than usual, arms laden with a colorful new sign, a small foldable canopy, and a box of art supplies. He had spent the previous evening painting Sophie's lemonade, made with love in bright, cheerful letters. Tiny cartoon lemons with smiling faces bordered the sign, each one seemingly cheering for Sophie's success. Sophie's jaw dropped when she saw the transformation in the works. You did all this for me? She breathed, fingertips grazing the sign as though afraid it might vanish if she touched it too firmly. Of course, Keanu replied, sliding the canopy's metal legs into position. We said we'd jazz up the stand, right? And let's face it, your lemonade deserves the best advertising possible. Together, they assembled the stand's new look, draping a lively tablecloth over the old folding table and anchoring the canopy to provide shade. Sophie meticulously arranged her cups and pitcher, while Keanu pinned the hand-painted sign where everyone could see it. Passers-by began to slow down, intrigued by the sudden burst of color and energy. A neighbor out walking her dog approached, curious eyes dancing between Sophie's glowing face and Keanu Reeves adjusting the canopy height. Well, this is something special, she said. I'll take a cup, please. Sophie poured the lemonade, a few traces of pink from the previous day's strawberry idea still swirling in the pitcher. The neighbor sipped and grinned. You're right, she told Keanu. This might be the best in LA. Handing Sophie a $5 bill, she added, keep the change, sweetie. Hope you sell out. As the woman strolled away, Sophie couldn't stop smiling. Business trickled in throughout the morning, each new customer drawn by the colorful sign or enticed by Sophie's sweet demeanor. Keanu, perched on a small chair behind the stand, played the role of friendly spokesperson whenever someone asked how Sophie's stand got so vibrant overnight. He praised her recipe and entrepreneurial spirit, deflecting any focus from his own role. At one point, Sophie's mother, Monica, arrived with a surprised look on her face. She wore a simple blouse and carried a light sweater over one arm, looking slightly frazzled. Sophie, honey, I didn't expect. She paused, noticing Keanu. Oh, hello. Keanu offered a friendly wave. Hi, I'm Keanu. I've been coming by for lemonade the past few days. Thought I'd help out with the stand. Monica studied him for a moment, then looked at her daughter with subtle questions in her eyes. Sophie quickly explained, Mom, he helped me decorate. More people are stopping by now. Monica's expression softened. That's very kind of you, she said to Keanu. You've done a lot for someone you barely know. Keanu simply shrugged. Sophie's lemonade is really good. It should be shared with as many people as possible. Monica blinked, the corners of her mouth curving into a grateful smile that seemed tinged with relief. Yet there was a strain in her eyes, a sign of the weight she carried. In that fleeting moment, Keanu sensed that the mother's burdens ran deep, perhaps deeper than even Sophie knew. After Monica left, Sophie turned to Keanu and sighed. She's been working 2 jobs since my dad lost his. It's been tough. Keanu nodded, letting the pause linger. I'm sorry to hear that. Must be hard on all of you. Sophie nodded, her gaze flickering to a photograph taped to the side of the table. An older snapshot of her and her brother, Ethan, both grinning widely at the camera. I just want to do what I can, she whispered, especially with Ethan needing more doctor visits lately. Keanu's chest tightened. He was gradually piecing together the puzzle. Her father's unemployment, her mother's exhaustion, and a brother who required medical attention. Each detail, unspoken before, confirmed that Sophie's lemonade stand was far from a child's simple summer pastime. A short time later, a petite woman with a camera approached, identifying herself as a local blogger who highlighted unique community stories. She asked if she could take pictures and interview Sophie about her stand. Sophie, taken aback, glanced at Keanu, who gave her an encouraging nod. Soon enough, the blogger was snapping photos of the newly decorated stand, capturing Sophie's shy smile and the bright sign that read, Sophie's Lemonade, made with love. When the blogger left, excitement bubbled up between them. If it gets posted online, Sophie said, barely containing her glee, maybe even more people will come. Keanu agreed, but an undercurrent of concern weighed on his mind. He wanted the world to see how special Sophie was, but he also worried about drawing too much attention, especially if her family's needs were so personal. Still, he hoped the exposure would help lighten their financial burden. They continued tending the stand until evening. The day had been a success. Sophie sold more lemonade than ever before. As she began to pack up, Keanu noticed the expression of both triumph and tiredness on her face. He gently offered, How about I help you carry all this home? Sophie gave him a grateful nod. Thanks. It's not too far. They walked the short distance to her family's modest apartment building. Keanu carried the canopy, while Sophie trailed behind with her pitcher and sign. At the door, she thanked him again, her voice hushed under the neon glow of a nearby street lamp. Everything you've done. I can't believe how nice people can be. Keanu offered a reassuring smile. Kindness is always out there. Sophie, sometimes it just needs a chance to show itself. Her eyes shone with unspoken gratitude. She disappeared inside, leaving Keanu in the cool night air, pondering how he could further help this brave girl and her family. Little did he know that the ripple effect they'd started would soon reach every corner of the neighborhood and beyond. Word about Sophie's lemonade stand spread quickly. The local blogger's post, coupled with the new eye-catching sign, drew a steady flow of neighbors and curiosity seekers to her corner. Some arrived to see if the hype matched reality, others to support what they heard was a sweet initiative by a girl wanting to help her family, and all left singing praises of Sophie's delightful lemonade. Keanu Reeves found himself less of a spectator and more of a part-time team member. Each day, he'd arrive with different items. A colorful umbrella when the California sun was too intense, fresh herbs for new flavors, or even a small speaker to play gentle music, creating a welcoming ambience around the stand. Sophie would light up each time he appeared, as if his presence reassured her that she wasn't fighting this battle alone. Meanwhile, Monica occasionally dropped by on her lunch break, appearing both proud and slightly overwhelmed by the sudden community interest. She confided in Keanu that she was wary of strangers getting too close, having gone through tough times when her husband lost his job and medical bills piled up for Ethan. Yet every day that she saw Sophie thrive, her skepticism softened. That week, a new face arrived. Mr. Peterson, a tall, soft-spoken man who lingered across the street at first, observing. Sophie noticed him from her vantage point behind the lemonade pitcher. He didn't approach on day one, nor the second. He simply hovered, often disappearing before she could wave. Keanu spotted him, too, but chose not to draw attention, suspecting curiosity rather than malice. One afternoon, Monica came earlier than usual, calling Sophie away from the stand for a private conversation. Keanu watched from a respectful distance as mother and daughter spoke in hushed tones, with Monica occasionally glancing around to ensure no one overheard. Sophie's expression transitioned from cautious to relieved, and when she returned, she told Keanu that Mr. Peterson was an old acquaintance of her father's who might offer Monica a job. How did he find us? Sophie wondered aloud, a mix of hope and suspicion coloring her voice. Maybe he saw your lemonade stand online, Keanu suggested gently, and recognized your dad's connection. Sometimes life works in interesting ways. Sophie nodded, thoughtful. The possibility of her mother landing stable employment lifted a significant weight off her shoulders. A flicker of optimism danced in her eyes. Still, the mention of her father's acquaintance reminded her how precarious their situation remained. Later that day, the neighborhood held an impromptu celebration around Sophie's stand. Word had traveled that she was raising money to help her family, and local residents decided to join forces. A family down the street donated homemade cookies to pair with the lemonade. The bookstore owner offered to put up flyers, boasting, "Taste the best lemonade in LA. Support Sophie." A group of teenagers even volunteered to hand out samples along the sidewalk. Sophie buzzed with excitement as she poured cup after cup, smiling at each customer. Keanu took the role of crowd wrangler, helping maintain order in the informal line that formed. Chatting with neighbors, he realized how powerful Sophie's initiative had become, a symbol of hope that drew out the best in everyone. Mr. Peterson appeared that evening, approaching the stand for the first time. He politely greeted Sophie and Keanu, then nodded at Monica, who was helping collect payments. The look on Monica's face was one of cautious gratitude. Perhaps this was the break she had prayed for. Their conversation was brief but warm. Mr. Peterson purchased a cup of lemonade and sipped it with a smile. "I used to buy lemonade from your dad when we were kids," he told Sophie, nostalgia flickering across his features. "He'd set up a stand every summer. It's nice to see you carrying on the tradition." Sophie blushed slightly, offering him change. "Thank you for stopping by. It's cool you knew my dad back then." After Mr. Peterson left, Monica admitted to Keanu that he had already arranged a preliminary job interview for her and promised help for Ethan's treatments. "It feels like a miracle," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Keanu placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Sometimes miracles happen when people dare to share their struggles. Sophie's openness brought all these connections together. Monica dabbed at her eyes, nodding. "I just hope this leads to something real, and that Ethan can get the care he needs." As they closed up for the night, Sophie clung to Keanu's arm. "Thank you," she said, eyes shining under the streetlights. "I was so scared at first, but now everything feels different." Keanu offered a gentle grin. "Don't thank me yet. There's still more to do. I have a feeling this is just the beginning." For Sophie, it was like an entire new world had opened up, one where her family's future no longer seemed dark and uncertain. In place of fear, she carried a growing sense of hope, and in place of loneliness, she had the warmth of a community championed by an actor with a kind heart, urging her to believe in possibilities once deemed out of reach. Over the next few weeks, life transformed for Sophie and her family in ways she never could have anticipated. The lemonade stand evolved into a local treasure, becoming a gathering place where neighbors chatted, children played, and volunteers offered creative suggestions for expansions, like adding homemade cookies or even lemon art for the younger kids. Music played softly in the background, drawing people in from across the street. Monica's meeting with Mr. Peterson proved fruitful. She secured a stable position in his growing business. This not only meant a steady paycheck, but also the promise of health insurance that could help cover Ethan's medical needs. The relief radiating from her face was evident each time she visited the stand after work. Meanwhile, Ethan began receiving more specialized treatments, courtesy of connections Mr. Peterson had in the medical field. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, hope was on the horizon. Sophie noticed a lift in her mother's posture, the lines of worry across Monica's forehead slowly easing as new possibilities took shape. Keanu Reeves continued to show up daily, sometimes with small additions, a new tablecloth or a box of fresh lemons, to keep the stand vibrant and appealing. Seeing the stand's success, he reached out to a few local journalists he knew personally, inviting them to witness what he called the most heartwarming lemonade stand in Los Angeles. Soon enough, a local news crew arrived, cameras rolling as Sophie shyly answered their questions. Viewers learned about her mission, raising money to help her family during a tough time. But the segment also highlighted the sense of community that had blossomed, genuine testament to the power of compassion. That evening, as they were winding down, Keanu asked Sophie, "Do you miss theater classes?" She looked up, surprise flashing in her eyes. "A lot. I miss performing on stage, just letting go of all the worries in my head." He gave her a gentle smile. "Well, I think you might be able to go back soon. Your mom is in a better place now, financially and emotionally." Sophie felt tears prick the corners of her eyes. She glanced at her reflection in the lemonade pitcher's reflective surface. Hair a bit messy, an apron smudged with lemon juice, but with a spark of hope shining in her gaze. "I'd love that." Over the next few days, an even bigger surprise unfolded. The news segment reached a wider audience than anyone expected, prompting generous donations from strangers touched by Sophie's story. Envelopes containing kind letters and checks for Ethan's treatment arrived in the mail, and local businesses offered to sponsor expansions of the stand or provide supplies at no cost. One Saturday afternoon, an outdoor mini-festival took place right on Sophie Street. Organized by neighbors and small business owners, it featured live music, pop-up food stalls, and of course, Sophie's lemonade stand at the heart of it all. With Keanu's help, the canopy was decorated with balloons and a handmade banner that read, "Thank you, LA," supporting Sophie and her family. The crowd was joyful, dancing in the sunlight and savoring Sophie's lemonade. Monica, standing beside her daughter, couldn't hide her amazement as she watched a line of people waiting to purchase a cup. She whispered to Sophie, "All these people, they just want to help." Sophie looked at Keanu, her chest tight with gratitude. "It's unbelievable," she said softly. He nodded. "Kindness is contagious. You started something special here, Sophie." The festival rolled on until early evening, the event raising more funds for Ethan's treatment than Sophie ever dreamed possible. By the time the last customer left, her tip jar overflowed with cash and encouraging notes. One note read, "Keep shining bright, Sophie. You're an inspiration to us all." Tucking the notes away carefully, she turned to Keanu. "I wish I had the right words to thank you," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. He shook his head. "You already have. You let me be part of something beautiful, your determination to help your family." Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Sophie walked Keanu a few blocks away from the stand toward his car. They ambled in comfortable silence, the hush of the evening a gentle contrast to the festival's music. Just before they parted, Sophie reached out and hugged him, timidly at first, but with a genuine surge of emotion. "Thank you for believing in me," she whispered. Keanu responded with a quiet laugh, patting her shoulder. "Your story was worth believing in, Sophie. Don't ever doubt that." They said their farewells, and Sophie watched as Keanu disappeared around the corner. She felt both a little sadness and a lot of warmth, knowing she might not see him every day now that her life was on a steadier path. Still, she carried an unshakable sense of hope, a certainty that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she had the strength to face them. The lemonade stand remained as a neighborhood fixture, though now Sophie began returning to her theater lessons. She alternated her schedule, still showing up on weekends to greet customers who had become friends. Whenever asked what inspired her to start selling lemonade, Sophie would smile and say, "I wanted to help my family, but along the way, a lot of people helped me too." In that simple statement lay the essence of everything she learned. That kindness can surprise you, strangers can become allies, and a single cup of lemonade can pour out an entire world of possibility. Sometimes, the smallest gestures create the largest waves. Sophie began her lemonade stand with a simple hope, to relieve her mother's burden and support her brother's treatments. Yet what started as a quiet corner enterprise soon touched the hearts of a community and beyond, proving that genuine compassion can spark change in the most unexpected places. Keanu Reeves didn't plan on becoming part of Sophie's life. He saw a determined young girl selling lemonade and felt a pull to learn more. In reaching out, he discovered a family in need of hope, a neighborhood ready to rally around their own, and a reminder that every act of kindness has a ripple effect. The outpouring of support Sophie received was more than just dollars in a jar. It was the reassurance that she was not alone, that her dreams mattered, and that a collective willingness to help each other could make a tangible difference. Her mother found steady work. Her brother gained access to medical treatment, and Sophie regained the freedom to pursue her love of theater, a journey that renewed her faith in brighter tomorrows. This story shows that compassion has the power to transform. Whether you're the one offering a helping hand or the one receiving it, hope and empathy can break down walls of isolation and hardship. A single cup of lemonade might not change the world, but the spirit behind it can. If this tale has moved you, remember there are countless more stories of resilience, courage, and selflessness waiting to be told. Click on another video here on Dear Heroic Life to experience more inspiring moments, and never forget how significant even the smallest act of kindness can be. Let's keep paying it forward, one cup at a time.